जय बाबा.
Nothing is real but God. Nothing matters but love for God. God is the only reality. All else that seems real is illusory. God and I are one. Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Thanks to beloved Baba and Jai Baba to all of you. By Baba's grace, we are venturing to read and understand, I would say one of the most, I use the word most authentic book written by Baba, and this is In God's Hand. Again, this is the session number 1 of In God's Hand. A couple of things before we start reading. Number 1, as I said, this book is in actual Meher Baba's handwriting. And therefore it is, I would say, the most authentic work which we have got from God's hand himself. Whenever we read and we try to interpret or understand Baba's words, I've always maintained that would be our interpretation, giving meaning, and we'll try to make it easily understandable and digestible. Such works are much beyond the ken of the mind. They are much beyond intellect. So there would be definitely certain areas which we have to just pass over and feel that, okay, we've understood. Because Baba himself says that in order to understand that which is beyond mind, it is not easy, it is not possible, not easy. And in other words, the mind has to go. So this is not something which you can easily, intellectually grasp or understand. The other thing I wanted to convey before we start reading is, perhaps this is the first book we are trying to read in English as well as in Hindi. Because there have been many suggestions given to us that why don't you also explain in Hindi. And by my Hindi being Hindi, what we are going to do is rely on the Hindi version of this very book, which is already published. Another suggestion that came to us is that when we are doing a 1.5 hour session, it becomes a bit too long, especially if it is a little hard to grasp. And so we will try to contain it much before 1.5 hours, maybe 1 hour, 1 hour, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, no standard timing pattern, but we'll see that it doesn't stretch up to 1.5 hours. Now I will explain this in Hindi also. प्रियतम मेहर बाबा की कृपा से हम ये किताब पढ़ने जा रहे हैं. ये किताब का टाइटल है इन गॉड्स हैंड, ईश्वर के हाथ से. और ये बाबा ने की खुद के हैंडराइटिंग में लिखी हुई है. ये जो सब्जेक्ट है, मैटर है, वो हमारे समझ के या बुद्धि के पर है. तो उसके कारण हम जो इंटरप्रेट करेंगे, जो उसका अर्थ लगाएंगे, मीनिंग देंगे, वो सिर्फ हमारा खुद का इंटरप्रिटेशन होगा. दिस इज़ लाइक अ डिस्क्लेमर. नोबडी शुड फील, ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए कि बाबा यही कहना चाहते हैं, शायद और कुछ भी कहना चाहते होंगे. ये पहली किताब है जो हम अंग्रेजी में और हिंदी में दोनों में पढ़ेंगे. ये सेशन नंबर 1 है और फॉर्चुनेटली हिंदी वर्जन भी हमारे पास है. सो मैं इंग्लिश पढ़ूंगा, 1 पैराग्राफ या 2 पैराग्राफ्स. जहाँ जहाँ एक्सप्लेनेशन की ज़रूरत है वहाँ मैं एक्सप्लेन करूँगा और उसके बाद में सौम्या विल रीड हिंदी, वो हिंदी पढ़ेगी. और वैसे करके करके हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे ये पूरी किताब समझने की. पढ़ने की तो है ही, लेकिन समझने की भी. सो दिस इज़, नाउ वी आर स्टार्टिंग इन गॉड्स हैंड. अगले टाइम से परहैप्स हम लोग एक कैमरा ये किताब के पन्ने के ऊपर भी रखेंगे, ताकि जब हम पढ़ते हैं, सो वील कीप वन कैमरा over the pages of this book, so that when we are reading, the person on the other side can also read on the screen what is mentioned in the book. This is the photograph that is there, Baba's photograph. This was during 1925-26. और जैसे कि ये थोड़ा भेलपुरी होएगा इंग्लिश और हिंदी का, जैसे कि we know that Baba stopped writing from 2nd of January 1927. So it is assumed that this book was written, or these pages were written. We'll look into how this came about sometime in 1925-26. 1925 और 26 के बीच में शायद ये किताब या ये पन्ने बाबा ने लिखे हैं. So now let me start reading. Introduction. The manuscript that this book brings to publication represents a unique and remarkable event. Unique and remarkable event, why? Because according to our understanding, never ever before in the known history we have found the handwriting of the avatar. Not of Zoroaster, not of Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad. Only in this advent we are able to actually see and read the avatar's handwriting. The 39 handwritten pages which comprise its main text are an exposition on ultimate reality in the handwriting of the very personification of that reality, the avatar of the age, Meher Baba. I'll read the other paragraph and then you can read. Words that proceed from the source of truth carry an impact that words of the intellect can never can. Baba ne khud ne I'll speak in English, she will talk in Hindi later on, explaining also in Hindi, that the words that proceed from the source of truth. The source of truth is Baba. And whatever words comes out of Baba, out of the source of truth, it has weightage, it has meaning, it has spiritual energy. And elsewhere Baba had said that when you work with those words, whether you understand it or not, that energy you imbibe and that benefits the reader spiritually. Revelations of the avatar are unlike the inspired pronouncements of philosophers and poets. ये जो अवतार वो रिवील करते हैं, उसका महत्व, उसका जो वेटेज है, that is much higher than a philosopher's words or a poet's words. What is the meaning of avatar? As Meher Baba explained, avatar means the descent of God into human form. अवतार कौन है? अवतार मनुष्य रूपी ईश्वर जो मनुष्य रूप धारण करता है, उनको हम अवतार बोलते हैं. When God becomes man as avatar, Christ, Rasul, he truly becomes man in the fullest sense of the word, taking upon himself all the limitations of the human mind and body, while at the same time experiencing the knowledge, power and bliss of God. God realization का त्रियुण जो 3 attributes है, infinite knowledge, infinite power and infinite bliss. Those attributes are even available to the perfect master. जो सदगुरु है, कुतुब है, उनको भी वो है, infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite bliss. But here, this is God becoming man. This is a descent from up to down, whereas Sadguru, Kutub and perfect masters are from down to up. The journey is different. They all experience infinite knowledge, power and bliss. But when a Sadguru is apparently suffering or going through the pain, Baba has explained elsewhere that they are just acting pain. Nothing affects them because they have become God. But when God becomes man and takes upon himself the limitations of the human body and the human mind, then he actually suffers. He actually goes through the pain and suffering. The avatar is one with God and simultaneously one with everyone. That means the avatar is everyone and everything at the same time and for all time. In this way, he spans the gap between the real and the illusory, helping to raise the level of consciousness of his entire creation. This is one USP, you may say. We call USP, like unique selling proposition or unique selling point or whatever, USP. Now what is the avatar's USP? Universal spiritual push. Perfect masters can never give the universal spiritual push. That duty or that task or that job is that of the avatar himself. So that is where यहाँ पे कहा जाता है, he said that helping to raise the level of consciousness of his entire creation. Every time the avatar comes, he gives a universal spiritual push to entire creation. He is the soul of souls, yet it is his all-embracing love and simplicity, humility and humor of the divine life he leads that makes his advent. I may not explain each and every sentence. Advent, time and again, so adorable to humanity and draws the countless millions to follow him in the centuries after he has passed away. We have seen it time and time again, that whenever the avatar comes, he has very, very, very few following. It's only after he passes over 500, 1000 years later, people get to realize, oh, he was the God in human form. So that is why Baba says, that I am the one whose past is remembered and worshipped, whose present is ignored and forgotten, and whose future advent is anticipated with great fervor and longing. हमेशा ऐसे ही हुआ है. Whenever the avatar comes, बहुत कम लोग उनको मानते हैं, उनको फॉलो करते हैं. 100, 200, 300, 500 साल के बाद people realize, oh, he's the avatar, and that is how the followings increase. He has passed away. Baba has passed away. An Urdu poet, Qamar, has said of the eternal beloved's charm and magnetism, तेरा हुस्न है तेरी सादगी तेरा हुस्न है, which translates, your beauty is your simplicity and your simplicity is your beauty. Talking about beloved Baba's beauty, those who have witnessed his beauty, those who have met him and seen him, almost everyone says that his beauty cannot be captured in any photograph or in film roll. When you see him face to face, physically, his beauty had a certain, you can say, a halo or some kind of a magnetism which cannot be explained and which cannot be captured on a roll. Yeah, go ahead. Now Soumya will read Hindi. I leave it to her if she wants to explain. Okay, then she will only read the Hindi portion. The whole idea is that Hindi knowing people should also get the benefit of this book. Go ahead.
भूमिका. ईश्वर के हाथ से नामक ये पुस्तक जिस अभिलेख को प्रकाशित करने जा रही है, वह एक अनुपम और उल्लेखनीय घटना का प्रतीक है. अवतार मेहर बाबा की हस्तलिपि में हस्तलिखित वे 39 पृष्ठ जो इस पुस्तक के मूल पाठ की रचना करते हैं, वास्तव में वे उस परम सत्य को उजागर करते हैं जिस सत्य की प्रतिमूर्ति वे स्वयं हैं. जो शब्द सत्य के स्रोत से निकलते हैं, वे एक ऐसा प्रभाव रखते हैं जो बुद्धि से रचित शब्दों में कभी नहीं हो सकता. अवतार द्वारा किए गए घाटन दार्शनिकों और कवियों की प्रेरणादायक घोषणाओं से सर्वथा भिन्न होते हैं। अवतार का अर्थ बताते हुए मेहर बाबा कहते हैं कि ईश्वर का मनुष्य रूप धारण करना ही अवतार कहलाता है और अवतार ही ईसा मसीह, रसूल या बुद्ध जैसे अन्य नामों से जाना जाता है। अवतार अपने आप को मानव मन और शरीर की समस्त सीमाओं में बांधते हुए साथ ही साथ ईश्वरीय ज्ञान, शक्ति और आनंद का अनुभव करते हुए सचमुच मनुष्य बनता है। अवतार ईश्वर के साथ अपनी एक रूपता बनाए रखने के साथ ही साथ अन्य प्रत्येक जीव के साथ भी एक रूप होता है। इस प्रकार वह सत्य और माया के बीच की खाई को पाटते हुए अपनी संपूर्ण सृष्टि की चेतना का स्तर ऊपर उठाने में सहायक होता है। यद्यपि अवतार आत्माओं की आत्मा होता है, फिर भी उसका सहज प्रेम, सरलता, विनम्रता और परिहास भरा वह दिव्य जीवन जिसे वह समय समय पर विभिन्न अवतारों के रूप में जीता है, उसे मानवता के लिए इतना वंदनीय बना देता है कि उसके गुजरने के बाद शताब्दियों तक अनगिनत लोग उसका अनुसरण करने हेतु उसकी ओर खींचे चले आते हैं। एक उर्दू शायर कमर ने उस शाश्वत प्रियतम के सम्मोहन और चुंबकीय आकर्षण के लिए ठीक ही कहा है, तेरा हुस्न है तेरी सादगी तेरा हुस्न है। अर्थात तुम्हारी सुंदरता ही तुम्हारी सरलता है और तुम्हारी सरलता ही तुम्हारी सुंदरता है।
So, these 39 pages in the avatar's hand do more than record words and ideas. They register a process in which God, who is beyond understanding, brings forth an image of the unfathomable truth for the limited human mind. Elsewhere, Baba has said when he was dictating God Speaks, to appease the intellectual convulsions of the mind, he is giving all this to humanity. So, whatever Baba has written is beyond the human intellect, but it will just give us an image of what exactly he wants to convey with regard to the creation. We can never grasp the true significance of the author let me repeat again. We can never grasp the true significance of the author of creation writing as human author or the universal work that he accomplishes in doing so. But what we can see in these penciled lines, because they were all written in pencil on a very, very, I would say, a paper which is not a high quality paper. Coarse paper, you can say. And when these papers were discovered, unearthed, and they were so brittle, they were so delicate, najuk, and they have been kept in the archives. And the photography of the entire book, that means of the pages, has been done by one of our very dear friends by the name Homiyar Mistry. He was one, and he had explained that they were so particular that you were supposed to wear gloves and there was a particular lighting and you're not supposed to go over. In short, they had to protect the papers as best as they can. And that is how the photographs have been taken. And now the papers are lying in the archives with a lot of protective shield so that they don't get destroyed with the passage of time. But what we can see in these penciled lines is a trace of that process. Much of the beauty of this manuscript lies in its handwritten expression, which brings a sense of closeness to him as a man, because he has been writing like how we write very fast. We are in a hurry to finish a sentence, and then we go back to earlier sentence, then we make a mark and say, oh, I forgot this, so he adds this. So many things have been struck off. So that is what Baba says, a sense of closeness to him, capital H, as a man. And through this, to his immediate direct experience of what he is writing about. Man amidst human limitations. Meher Baba writes as the one who knows. He has not to think of what he has to write because he knows. So he has written, and here it says, man amidst human limitations. Human limitations of perhaps time, perhaps energy, I really don't know. In reading this facsimile, we are carried back in time, as it were, into the presence of Meher Baba himself in the mid-1920s. As I said, perhaps 1925-26 is when Baba had written this. Still in the full fire of his youth, impatient with the cramping conventions of language and style and grammar, expostulating in swift, bold strokes of the pencil on the theme of one God in ignorance and knowledge. It's a very beautiful introduction, and it's showing that Baba was, in that youth, and the limitation of language, the limitation of grammar he has to go through, and which is very apparent in the writing. Because he has to bring that knowledge which is beyond language, beyond grammar, beyond mind, into, you have to cramp it, you have to squeeze it into a language that we can somehow understand. Darkness and light. Sometimes he crosses out a sentence or misspells a word. So if we make spelling mistake, you should not be worried, because God also makes spelling mistake. Misspells a word. Sometimes he goes back to insert phrases between lines. At one juncture, he has scored it out again. He even appears to have jotted down a note, possibly for future reference, and then to have scored it out again. So he wrote something and then scored it out again, cancelled it. Writing predominantly in English, he interjects a Gujarati word or expression when no English word suits, and then suddenly switches to Gujarati for several pages. Now, this was his style of writing. He would use multiple languages when he is writing: English, Gujarati, even in Aarti we see Farsi, Persian, even Marathi, Urdu. So he uses a mixture of languages. Okay. He quotes a Hindi quatrain of Kabir, but writes it not in Hindi script, the Devanagari, but in the Gujarati script. Sometimes he inserts diagrams and expresses his relations through equations and formulas, as if summoning the modern language of logic and mathematics to the exposition of an ancient spiritual theorem that God is equal to the is, capital I-S, and the illusion of creation is equal to the is not. Baba has said, that the only thing that can be said about God is this. Because if you say God is one, then also it is incorrect, because when you say one, it gives an impression that there may be more than one. So the only thing that can be said is, I-S, is. So that is what is being emphasized here. In the heat and intensity of these handwritten pages, we can almost imagine the infinite intelligence fashioning a verbal likeness of itself in the crucible of time, space, and the workings of a human mind. So in other words, in the crucible, in the container, it is being packed, all this infinite intelligence is being packed in the crucible of time, space and the workings of a human mind.
अवतार के हाथ से लिखित ये 39 पृष्ठ शब्दों और विचारों का संकलन मात्र होने के बजाय उस प्रक्रिया को स्पष्ट करते हैं जिसके द्वारा ईश्वर ने स्वयं उस अगाध दैवी सत्य के एक स्वरूप को, जो हमारी समझ के परे है, सीमित मानवीय समझ के अनुरूप उजागर किया है। सृष्टि के रचयिता ईश्वर के स्वयं के मानवीय स्वरूप से की गई इस पांडुलिपि की रचना के वास्तविक महत्व को न तो हम समझ ही सकते हैं और न ही उसके उस सार्वभौमिक उद्देश्य को जिसकी पूर्ति इस कृति के माध्यम से वह करना चाहता है। फिर भी पेंसिल से लिखित मूल पांडुलिपि कि इन पंक्तियों में हम उस प्रक्रिया का कुछ आभास अवश्य पा सकते हैं जिसके द्वारा समझ के परे अगाध ईश्वर को मानवीय समझ के दायरे में लाया गया है। इस मूल कृति की विशेष सुंदरता उसके ईश्वर की हस्तलिपि में उपलब्ध होने के कारण है। यह हस्तलिखित पांडुलिपि न केवल हमें उसके मानवीय स्वरूप के प्रति निकटता और एहसास कराती है, बल्कि उनके उस प्रत्यक्ष और तात्कालिक अनुभव के प्रति भी समीपता का एहसास कराती है, जिसका वर्णन मेहर बाबा अपनी इस कृति में कर रहे हैं। मानवीय सीमाओं में रहकर भी मेहर बाबा इस कृति को सर्वज्ञ के रूप में ही लिख रहे हैं। इस पांडुलिपि को पढ़ते वक्त हम उस गुजरे ज़माने में मेहर बाबा की साक्षात मौजूदगी में पहुंच जाते हैं, जब 1925 के आसपास वे अपनी तरुण अवस्था के संपूर्ण उत्साह में भाषा, शैली और व्याकरण के प्रति उदासीन रहकर पेंसिल से तेज व स्पष्ट लिखते हुए ईश्वर की ज्ञानमय, अंधकारमय तथा प्रकाशमय अवस्थाओं के विषय में उदाहरण सहित आध्यात्मिक व्याख्याएं लिख रहे थे। लिखने की अधीरता में वे कभी किसी वाक्य को काट देते, तो कभी किसी शब्द की गलत हिज्जे लिखते और कभी पहले लिखी हुई पंक्तियों के बीच कोई नया वाक्यांश बाद में जोड़ देते। एक स्थान पर तो वे एक संक्षिप्त टिप्पणी भविष्य के किसी संदर्भ के लिए लिखते हैं, पर उसे भी बाद में काट देते हैं। इस पांडुलिपि को प्रमुख रूप से अंग्रेजी में लिखते हुए जब उन्हें कोई अंग्रेजी शब्द उपयुक्त नहीं लगता, तब वे कहीं कहीं गुजराती के शब्द या मुहावरे का प्रयोग करते हैं। कहीं कहीं वे कई पृष्ठों तक लगातार गुजराती भाषा में ही लिखते जाते हैं। वे कबीर की एक चौपाई का उल्लेख बीच में करते हैं, किंतु उसे देवनागरी लिपि में न लिखकर गुजराती भाषा में लिपिबद्ध करते हैं। बीच बीच में वे कभी कोई रेखा चित्र भी बना देते और उसका स्पष्टीकरण सूत्रों और समीकरणों से कुछ इस प्रकार करते जैसे किसी पुरातन आध्यात्मिक मान्यता का स्पष्टीकरण वे तर्क व गणित की आधुनिक शैली में कर रहे हैं। जैसे ईश्वर व सृष्टि के वो निम्नलिखित सूत्रों से कुछ इस तरह स्पष्ट करते हैं। ईश्वर वह है और सृष्टि का भ्रम वह नहीं है। उनके द्वारा हस्तलिखित इन पृष्ठों की गरिमा एवं भाव प्रबलता से हम अनुमान लगा सकते हैं कि ईश्वर ने समय और अंतराल की अग्नि परीक्षा से गुजरकर तथा मानव मन की क्रियाशीलता का उपयोग करते हुए कैसे अपने अनंत ज्ञान को समझ के अनुरूप शब्दों में ढाला और उसे अपनी स्वयं की हस्तलिखित पांडुलिपि के रूप में हमें उपलब्ध कराया।
In this way, the manuscript gives a new picture of him who is both limited and limitless, bound and free. The eager energy, naturalness, and concentrated focus of the writing are the outflow of the divine personality as a writer, where words, now streaming freely, now pausing in reflection, now checking and circling back upon themselves, give voice to a truth that ultimately defies description. So this is it's a very, I would say, very descriptive introduction where the aspects of the God-man is being highlighted. Thus, the writing process, like other activities, is brought into the compass of the avatar's work. For nothing that is human is strange to God. As Meher Baba has said, true spirituality based on the everything, capital E, embraces every aspect of the nothing. In other words, Baba, in other literature, Baba says that the creation has come out of nothing. And what is the creation is nothing but the nothingness of the nothing. So we won't go into that aspect. So that is why it is written that nothing that is human is strange to God. As Meher Baba has said, true spirituality based on the everything embraces every aspect of the nothing, which means the creation. The vision of reality that in God's hand sets forth is, in essence, the same as that which underlies the discourses God speaks and other books and messages which Meher Baba composed and that were published in later years. Those subsequent works, just as discourses God speaks and so many other works, Path of Love, Everything and Nothing, Sparks, all those were subsequent works which Meher Baba composed and that were published in later years. Those subsequent works were addressed to a wider, broad-based following that included Westerners as well as Easterners, neophytes to spirituality, along with advanced seekers. Accordingly, in formulating these later explanations, Meher Baba adjusted his terminology and took pains to bring out the consistencies underlying seeming paradoxes. You can see that in so many books that were subsequently, you can say, unearthed, later on, like Infinite Intelligence, where certain terminologies used at those times were fine-tuned and there was some consistency in the later works of Meher Baba. In God's Hand, by contrast, appears to have been written without regard to the constraints of audience. For this reason, it sometimes seems to be obscure and esoteric. Yet, when one comes to grasp the language that Meher Baba is using, the theme which he is developing emerges with great power and clarity. In other words, in the earlier days, he used to use certain terminologies which were fine-tuned and refined and made consistent in later works.
इस प्रकार यह पांडुलिपि उनका एक नया ही रूप प्रस्तुत करती है, जहाँ वह सीमित व सीमा रहित है, स्वतंत्र है और साथ ही परतंत्र भी। इस लेखन की उत्साहपूर्ण ऊर्जा, सहजता व गहरी एकाग्रता उस दैवी व्यक्तित्व की एक लेखक के रूप में ऐसी अभिव्यक्ति है जहाँ कभी उसके शब्द उन्मुक्त रूप में प्रवाहित होते हैं तो कभी चिंतन में ठहरे हुए या फिर कभी पीछे लिखी पंक्तियों को परखते हुए उस सत्य को उजागर करते हैं जो वास्तव में वर्णन से परे हैं। इस प्रकार वे अपने लेखन कार्य को भी अपने अन्य क्रियाकलापों की भांति अपने अवतारिक कार्य की परिधि में लाए हैं क्योंकि जो कुछ भी मानवीय है वह ईश्वर के लिए अपरिचित नहीं है। मेहर बाबा कहते हैं कि सब कुछ पर आधारित सच्ची आध्यात्मिकता कुछ नहीं कि प्रत्येक पहलू को गले लगाती है। सत्यता का जो स्वरूप ईश्वर के हाथ से नामक यह पुस्तक स्थापित करती है, सार रूप में वो वही है जो उनके प्रवचनों डिस्कोर्सेस, ईश्वरवाणी गॉड स्पीक्स और उनकी अन्य पुस्तकों तथा संदेशों के मूल में स्थित हैं, जिनकी रचना मेहर बाबा ने की थी और जो बाद में वर्षों में प्रकाशित हुई। वे बाद की कृतियाँ एक अधिक व्यापक और गहरी समझ वाले अनुयायियों को संबोधित थी, जिनमें शामिल थे पाश्चात्य के साथ ही पूर्वीय जगत के लोग, उन्नत याचक व आध्यात्मिका में रुचि लेने वाले नए अनुयायी। तदनुसार अपनी इन बाद की कृतियों में मेहर बाबा ने कष्टपूर्वक अपने पारिभाषिक शब्दों से जटिलताओं को हटाकर वे उचित परिवर्तन कर उनके अनुकूल व सामंजस्यपूर्ण अर्थ स्पष्ट किए। ईश्वर के हाथ से नामक यह पुस्तक मेहर बाबा की बाद की अन्य रचनाओं की तुलना में पाठकों की समझ की सीमा का ध्यान किए बिना लिखी गई प्रतीत होती है। यद्यपि यह कभी कभी अस्पष्ट और रहस्यमय प्रतीत होती है, तो भी जब कोई उस शैली को समझने लगता है जिसका प्रयोग मेहर बाबा यहाँ कर रहे हैं, तब वह विषय जिसे वो प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं अति प्रभावी ढंग और स्पष्टता के साथ समझ में आने लगता है।
All right, now the next paragraph is, I would say, very interesting and very important, because that becomes the theme of the entire book later on. The subject of this book is nothing less than the ultimate question of metaphysics. What is? In other words, what is creation, what is man, what are we here for, where have we come from, and where are we going, and all that. And what is the relation between the real and the apparent, God and the creation? What is the relationship between the creator and the creation? That means the reality and the apparent, that is the illusion. Meher Baba's explanation hinges on the difference and interrelationship between four states of God. Now, once we grasp these four states, it will become very easy later on when we read Baba's handwriting. Because if we lose, it's like mathematics. It's like a theorem. If you don't follow the first steps, then it just goes, as we say, equation. Yeah, okay, bumper. So Baba talks about four states of God in a very different manner. You know, it says natural light or self, as natural darkness, spirit. Natural light is self. Natural darkness is spirit. We'll keep doing it so it will be, sunk in our system. As unnatural darkness, which is mind, and as unnatural light, which is body. These four states are encompassed in the game of consciousness, which lies latent in sound sleep, dreams in both ordinary human dreaming and in the divine dream of the planes, and comes to full wakefulness in ordinary human awareness, as well as in divine awakening of God realization. We will do this in detail as we move forward. What God in the state of ignorance, unnatural darkness and unnatural light must bring to pass in the complete cessation of all activities of the mind, manonash as we say, annihilation of the mind. Though yogis try to accomplish this through various techniques of concentration, Meher Baba explains that this method runs up against almost insurmountable difficulties. However, the God-realized perfect master, Salik Guru, can silence the mind in an instant. When the mind is thus eternally silenced, the infinite ego of God experiences the sound sleep in awake state. This is one state. Sound sleep in awake state. The link between consciousness and the mind, that is unnatural darkness, is broken. The spirit sees the self and the goal of existence to experience God realization is attained. In this paragraph, in a sense, in a nutshell, Baba has explained the introduction explains what the entire book is all about. As we venture into reading, we'll look into that. So this is, I consider this as an important paragraph.
आत्म तत्व ज्ञान अस्तित्व दर्शन का मूल प्रश्न है, अस्तित्व क्या है, या फिर सत्य और आभास में क्या संबंध है, या फिर ईश्वर व सृष्टि में क्या नाता है। ईश्वर के हाथ से नामक इस पुस्तक का विषय भी आत्म तत्व ज्ञान के उपरोक्त प्रश्नों से कम महत्वपूर्ण नहीं है। इस विषय में मेहर बाबा द्वारा प्रस्तुत स्पष्टीकरण मुख्य रूप से ईश्वर की 4 अवस्थाओं के बीच के अंतर और आपसी संबंधों पर आधारित है। यह प्रमुख 4 अवस्थाएं हैं: स्वाभाविक प्रकाश, स्वत्व या आत्मा, स्वाभाविक अंधकार चेतना, अस्वाभाविक प्रकाश शरीर और अस्वाभाविक अंधकार मन। ये 4 अवस्थाएं चेतना के खेल में अंतर्निहित रहती है। चेतना गहरी निद्रा तथा दोनों प्रकार के स्वप्नों जैसे सामान्य मानवीय स्वप्न में और आध्यात्मिक भूमिकाओं के दैवी स्वप्न में सुसुप्त रहती है, और सामान्य मानवीय जागृति में तथा ईश्वर साक्षात्कार की दैवी जागृति में यह पूर्ण जागृत अवस्था में आ जाती है। ईश्वर को अर्थात बंधन में पड़े मनुष्य को अज्ञान की अवस्थाओं अस्वाभाविक अंधकार और अस्वाभाविक प्रकाश में जो कुछ संपन्न करना चाहिए वह है मन के समस्त क्रियाकलापों की संपूर्ण समाप्ति। यद्यपि योगी इसे एकाग्रता के विभिन्न कौशल से प्राप्त करने का प्रयास करते हैं, किंतु मेहर बाबा स्पष्ट करते हैं कि यह विधि लगभग अविजेय कठिनाइयों के विपरीत युद्ध करने जैसी है। फिर भी ईश्वर साक्षात्कार प्राप्त सद्गुरु सलिक गुरु मन को एक क्षण में मौन कर सकते हैं। इस प्रकार जब मन अंततः पूर्ण मौन हो जाता है, तब ईश्वर का अनंत अहम जागृत अवस्था में रहते हुए भी गहरी निद्रा का अनुभव करता है। चेतना और मन स्वाभाविक अंधकार एवं अस्वाभाविक अंधकार के बीच की कड़ी टूट जाती है और चेतना अब स्वत्व को देखती है या आत्मस्वरूप हो जाती है तथा अस्तित्व का लक्ष्य ईश्वर साक्षात्कार प्राप्त हो जाता है।
This is the theme, ancient but contemporary, regarding which the avatar penciled these notes on inexpensive notebook papers sometime in the opening years of his advent. Though many clarifications and further illuminations followed in later decades, in the end, all that the mind really needs to understand is contained here. Truly, these 39 pages speak volume. So, he had started, anyway, we'll come to that. Volumes, yeah. In other words, the introduction says that these are the 39 pages, and if you understand these pages in depth, then you have understood all about creation, all about consciousness, all about dreams, the various different levels of consciousness and realization. Understand, not actually experience. Concerning the actual manuscript and its history, little is known with certainty. Nobody knows. The title page identifies it as having been written in Baba's own hand, probably in 1925. We know that he started writing the book in 1925, and then in 1927 January, after that he stopped writing, except when he had to put his signatures wherever was required. The handwriting of this little page, the handwriting of this title page is that of Ramju Abdullah, one of Meher Baba's close disciples from the 1920s. After commencing his long silence on July 10, 1925, for a year and a half, Meher Baba communicated primarily through writing with chalk on slates. We had done this earlier, that there would be heaps of slates kept on Baba's one side. Baba would convey in writing and show it to whosoever he wants to communicate with. And then the slate would be kept on the other side, and there would be one of the Mandali disciples who would rub off what is written, and the slate would be circulated. And that is how he started communicating once he stopped speaking. It was during this period that, with his own hand, he wrote the book. Now we all know that on July 10th, 1925, Baba started his silence in the Jhopdi in the lower Meherabad. We know that. We also now know that he started writing the book, it's called The Book, also in the same Jhopdi on 13th of July, 1925. And then the book was written at various places, including in the, what we now call the Samadhi. It was at that time called a khadda, a pit. It was just a khadda. So Baba would go inside and write the book. And then subsequently the table house or table cabin, the big table with a door, so that Baba would go inside and write the book. So that was also one of the places where Baba would write whatever he wanted to write. So here it says, it was during this period that with his own hand he wrote the book, yet unpublished. Nobody knows where it is. It means nobody knows its whereabout, and nobody knows when it will be published. The only indication that we appear to have got from Baba himself during the later years of his ministry is that Baba saying that it contains hitherto spiritual secrets. It would be the most important book of the future, and it will come out when the time is right. We do not know when that is. The book, which Baba later referred to as his most important and comprehensive exposition on spirituality. On January 1, 1927, however, he gave up writing altogether, except for signing his name, which he resumed after an interlude of 3 years. He would sign his name M.S. Irani, never as Meher Baba except once, which is a different story. M.S. Irani, wherever it was required, on certain documents, and even when he signed close to 500 copies of God Speaks, where he signed M.S. Irani, and when he made his trust deed, so here again M.S. Irani. So and he would send out instructions to his close disciples all over the world, and there would be markings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, 20, 25. You should not do this between this period, or you should do this or not do this. So all these circulars were being circulated by Baba through A.D.K. Irani, of course, and Baba would sign those papers himself, M.S. Irani. Except for those, he never actually signed or wrote anything after he stopped writing in January 1927. Except for signing his name, okay. And for the last 42 years of his life, he expressed himself either by means of an alphabet board or through hand gestures. We know the origination of the so-called, evolution of the alphabet board, that when he stopped writing, obviously, how to convey, so he would point out the alphabet in the newspaper, and it was very cumbersome for the disciples to decipher and read. And then somebody made a paper, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, and then gradually somebody pasted it on a cardboard, and then somebody said, instead of going through the paper and cardboard, let us go for a wooden ply, and there it was painted A, B, C, D, and subsequently Baba asked that the numerals we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 0. So like that is how the alphabet board evolved. And that too, on the 7th of October 1954, he discarded. He stopped using the alphabet board, and it entirely depended upon the hand gestures. Only once he again took up the board, it's recorded, after discarding the board, because Don Stevens had brought a crew of people to do video shooting and all that, and Don requested that I brought these people and I would like you to show how you were dictating on the alphabet board. So I think that was the only time when he again took up the alphabet board, just to, display how he had dictated. I think the message was also that he had discarded the board, but just to show to people how I don't know exactly the facts of the matter, but that was one time when he took up the alphabet board again in his hands, and then after that there was no use of alphabet board, only his hand gestures and very expressive facial gestures, you can say. So that is how expressions, yeah, correct. All right. Which he resumed. He expressed himself either by means of an alphabet board or through hand gestures. These 39 handwritten pages therefore capture the concrete image of one of his human activities that was rarely in evidence after 1927. After 1927, there is no evidence of his writing except for, as we have seen, putting his signature. Yeah. Go ahead.
यह वही विषय है, पुरातन किंतु समकालीन, जिसके बारे में अवतार ने सस्ते कागज पर अपने अवतरण काल में प्रारंभिक वर्षों में किसी समय पेंसिल से ये विवरण लिखे। यद्यपि इस विषय पर अनेकों स्पष्टीकरण तथा अधिक प्रकाश डालने का कार्य बाद के दशकों में होता रहा, किंतु वह सब जिसे मन को अंततः वास्तव में समझने की आवश्यकता है, वह सब यहाँ इस पांडुलिपि में पहले से ही संचित था। सचमुच इन 39 पृष्ठों में अनेकों पुस्तकों के समतुल्य ज्ञान समाहित है। मूल पांडुलिपि और उसके इतिहास के बारे में निश्चित रूप से कुछ ज्ञात नहीं है। शीर्षक पृष्ठ इसे बाबा के स्वयं के हाथ से संभवतः 1925 में लिखा जाना प्रकट करता है। इस शीर्षक पृष्ठ की हस्तलिपि रमजू अब्दुल्ला के हाथ की है, जो 1920 के दशक से मेहर बाबा के निकट शिष्यों में से एक थे। 10 जुलाई 1925 से 1.5 वर्ष का अपना लंबा मौन धारण करने के पश्चात मेहर बाबा खड़ियाँ से स्लेटों पर लिखकर मुख्य रूप से संदेशों को व्यक्त करते थे। इसी अवधि में उन्होंने स्वयं अपने हाथ से वह रहस्यमय पुस्तक लिखी थी। नीचे है फुटनोट, रहस्यमय पुस्तक का आशय मेहर बाबा द्वारा लिखी गई उस पुस्तक से है जो 1925-26 के आसपास उन्होंने अपने मौन के प्रारंभ काल में लिखी थी। यह पुस्तक अब तक प्रकाशित नहीं हुई है, अतः उसका शीर्षक भी किसी को मालूम नहीं। उसकी चर्चा आने पर उसे उस पुस्तक द बुक के नाम से संबोधित किया जाता है। रहस्यमय पुस्तक लिखी थी जो अभी तक प्रकाशित नहीं हुई है और अब भी रहस्य के घेरे में है। इसे बाबा ने अपनी सर्वाधिक महत्व की पुस्तक कहा है और इसमें आध्यात्मिकता पर विस्तारपूर्ण व्याख्या होने का उल्लेख किया है। फिर 1 जनवरी 1927 से उन्होंने केवल अपने नाम के हस्ताक्षर करने के अलावा लिखना पूरी तरह से त्याग दिया और इसके बाद अपने जीवन के अगले 42 वर्षों में उन्होंने अपनी अभिव्यक्ति या तो वर्णमाला तख्ती के माध्यम से की या फिर हाथ की सांकेतिक भाषा से की। इसीलिए ये 39 हस्तलिखित पुष्ट उनके मानवीय क्रियाकलापों के उस एक स्वरूप को मुखरित करते हैं जो 1927 के बाद बिरले ही देखने को मिला।
All right. At the beginning of the session, I had said that we'll try to contain these sessions within 1 hour. It's almost 1 hour. But what will happen, we only have one more page of introduction. So I'm feeling that let us finish the introduction so that from next time onwards, we'll have a camera on the book and we'll start with the book proper. So this first session may extend beyond 1 hour. That's what I'm trying to convey. The manuscript was kept for a number of years by Mani S. Irani, Meher Baba's sister, among her personal papers. We have no sure information as to how, from where, or through whom it came into her hands, although it is possible that Ramju himself, when he gave his diaries to Meher Baba in Meherazad in the 1960s, delivered these handwritten pages at the same time, and that Baba then entrusted them to Mani. So that possibility is there. In any event, it has recently been discovered that certain portions of this text have been incorporated, sometimes verbatim and sometimes in paraphrase, into a much larger manuscript on infinite intelligence that is not in Baba's handwriting, but that presumably dates from the same period in his lifetime and was based on his explanation. So in infinite intelligence does not have Baba's handwriting, but because Baba's handwriting is here and this portion has been incorporated in infinite, a part of it, either verbatim or in paraphrases, that is how the authorship of Meher Baba has been given to infinite intelligence, that way. This larger manuscript itself bears an interesting relationship to Bhav Kalchuri's The Nothing and the Everything, which develops upon point which Baba dictated to Bhav in 1967-68 during a period of intense seclusion. So now we have got two more books coming in God's hand, and then there is infinite intelligence, and then there is nothing and everything. The nothing and everything has been developed from the points given by Baba to Bhauji when he was doing the night duty during the later part of his ministry, that is 1967-68. And they all bear a kind of a semblance between what has been explained. At that time, Baba told the Mandali that what he had given to Bhav constituted 10% of what he had himself written in the book. 40 years earlier, in 1920s, 25, etc. In 1998, when the manuscript on infinite intelligence from the 1920s came to light, Bhav went through it and immediately felt that it contained the full explanation of the points given by Baba to him. It appears then that some of the same contents on the subject of infinite intelligence were given by Baba in the 1920s and again in the late 60s, that is, in the opening and the final years of his advent. I'll read the whole thing. Only you want to read? Many lovers of Meher Baba and students of his work naturally will want to see for themselves the avatar's own handiwork in the 39 page manuscript. To make this experience available to wide public, the Avatar Meher Baba Perpetual Public Charitable Trust, under the chairmanship of Bhav Kalchuri, has prepared this facsimile edition for publication. Every effort has been made to reproduce the original manuscript as far as practicable, in paper size, color of the pencil graphite, color of the notebook sheets, and the other particulars. Means, in other words, as the original paper was in terms of the color and the shade, they have tried to reproduce in this book. The original 39 pages, now fragile and yellowing with age, are being housed in the Trust's archive collection. No doubt, this unique book will elicit diverse responses. Among those readers drawn into its spell, some will be intrigued by the philosophy and metaphysics, others by the sheer visual impact of the Godman's own handwriting, still others by the feeling of his intimate presence that the manuscript conveys. These are all imprints of his humanity that lead us closer to a glimpse of the true humility and sheer loveliness of the human face of God, which you will get to see from next time onwards, with an additional camera being put on the page, on the pages which are being read out. Of this one, who is the beloved of all mankind and celebrated, the celebrated Urdu Simap, one of Meher Baba's own favorite poets, has written, Manzil mili murad mili muddua mila, sab kuch mujhe mila jo tera nakshapa mila. A free rendering of these beautiful lines read, I reached the destination, won all that my heart longed for, and attained the object of my desire. Verily, I achieved all there was to be achieved when I found your footprint. So this is, in a sense, one of Baba's footprint, his own handwriting. So he says, Sab kuch mujhe mila jab jo tera lakshak pa mila. The editors, it's not here. Can you read out? Huh? When you read the Hindi. Oh, okay.
Ward Parks, Eric Nadel, Heather Nadel.
These are the editors, which the names are not in the version. Okay, now you can read them.
मूल हस्तलिखित पांडुलिपि अनेकों वर्षों तक मेहर बाबा की बहन मनी एस ईरानी के व्यक्तिगत अभिलेख संग्रह में रखी रही। यद्यपि हमारे पास कोई निश्चित जानकारी नहीं है कि किस प्रकार, कहाँ से और किसके द्वारा यह अभिलेख उनके हाथों में आया, किंतु यह संभव है कि 1960 के दशक में रमजू ने मेराजाद में अपनी डायरियाँ मेहर बाबा को सौंपते वक्त, जब यह 39 पृष्ठ की बाबा की स्वयं की हस्तलिखित पांडुलिपि भी उन्हें सौंपी होगी, शायद उसी वक्त बाबा ने यह अभिलेख मनी को संभालने हेतु दे दिया हो। सच्चाई जो भी हो, पर अभी कुछ ही समय पहले एक नया रहस्य उजागर हुआ है कि इसी पांडुलिपि के लेखन काल में के वक्त ही एक और अन्य वृहद पांडुलिपि की रचना की गई थी, जिसका शीर्षक था अनंत विद्या। यद्यपि यह पांडुलिपि बाबा की हस्तलिपि में नहीं है, फिर भी उसमें या तो बाबा द्वारा लिखित इन 39 पृष्ठों का कुछ अंश यथावत जोड़ा गया है, या फिर उनका कुछ भाग रूपांतरित कर जोड़ा गया है। अतः अनंत विद्या नामक इस दूसरे ग्रंथ का आधार भी बाबा के स्पष्टीकरण ही है, जो उन्होंने अपने इन 39 हस्तलिखित पृष्ठों में दिए हैं। अनंत विद्या नामक यह दूसरी बृहद पांडुलिपि भाव कल्चुरी की कुछ नहीं और सब कुछ नामक कृति से एक रोचक संबंध रखती है। भाव की पुस्तक उन बिंदुओं पर विकसित होती है जो बाबा ने स्वयं भाव को 1967-68 में अपने कठोर एकांतवास के समय अपनी उंगलियों के इशारों से लिखवाए थे। उस समय बाबा ने मंडली से कहा था कि उन्होंने भाव को जो सामग्री उनकी पुस्तक के लिए दी थी वह बाबा की स्वयं की उस रहस्यमय पुस्तक का 10% भाग थी जिसे उन्होंने 40 वर्ष पूर्व स्वयं लिखा था। 1998 में अनंत विद्या नामक पुस्तक की पांडुलिपि जब प्रकाश में आई तो भाव ने उसे पढ़ा और तत्काल अनुभव किया कि उसमें उन बिंदुओं का संपूर्ण स्पष्टीकरण था जो बाबा द्वारा 1967-68 में उन्हें दिए गए थे। इससे ऐसा प्रतीत होता है कि 1920 के दशक में जो कुछ अनंत विद्या नामक पांडुलिपि में दिया गया वही फिर 1967-68 में भाव को उनकी कुछ नहीं और सब कुछ नामक कृति के लिए दिया गया। अर्थात ऐसा प्रतीत होता है कि बाबा के अवतरण काल के प्रारंभिक वर्षों में उनके द्वारा उजागर किया गया ज्ञान उनके अवतार काल के अंतिम वर्षों में उन्हीं के द्वारा पुनः दोहराया गया। मेहर बाबा के अनेकों प्रेमी और उनके कार्य पर शोध करने वाले शोधार्थी स्वाभाविक रूप से 39 पृष्ठीय इस हस्तलिखित पांडुलिपि के रूप में अवतार के स्वयं के हाथ से रचित इस कृति को स्वयं देखना चाहेंगे। हालांकि 39 पृष्ठीय मूल पांडुलिपि जिसके पृष्ठ समय के साथ झुरझुरे और पीले हो चुके हैं अब ट्रस्ट के अभिलेखागार संग्रहालय में सुरक्षित रख दी गई है, किंतु व्यापक जन समुदाय को उस पांडुलिपि का निकटतम अनुभव प्रदान करने हेतु अवतार मेहर बाबा PPC ट्रस्ट अहमदनगर ने श्री भाव कल्चुरी की अध्यक्षता में इस पांडुलिपि का इन गॉड्स हैंड नामक पुस्तक के रूप में पहली अंग्रेजी संस्करण प्रकाशित किया और अब उसी का यह अनुवादित हिंदी संस्करण ईश्वर के हाथ से नामक इस पुस्तक के रूप में प्रकाशन हेतु तैयार किया है। निस्संदेह यह अनोखी पुस्तक पाठकों के विविध उद्गारों को उजागर करेगी। उन पाठकों में से जो इसके सम्मोहन जाल में खींचे जाएंगे कुछ तो उसकी विषय वस्तु तथा आत्म तत्वज्ञान से तथा अन्य कुछ पाठक ईश पुरुष की स्वयं की हस्तलिपि के दर्शनीय प्रभाव मात्र से स्तंभ रह जाएंगे। बहुत से अन्य पाठकों को यह पुस्तक ईश पुरुष की निकट उपस्थिति का आभास देकर प्रभावित करेगी, क्योंकि इस पुस्तक में उसकी मानवीयता जनित यह सारे प्रभाव ही है जो ईश्वर की सच्ची विनम्रता और ईश्वर के मानवीय चेहरे की निपट सुंदरता की एक झलक के रूप में उजागर होते हैं। उस एकमेव ईश्वर के लिए जो समस्त मानव जाति का प्रियतम है। प्रसिद्ध उर्दू शायर सीमाब जो मेहर बाबा के स्वयं के प्रिय कवियों में से एक है, लिखते हैं, मंजिल मिली, मुराद मिली, मुद्दुआ मिला, सब कुछ मुझे मिला जो तेरा नक्श पा मिला। इन सुंदर पंक्तियों का स्वतंत्र अनुवाद इस प्रकार है। मैं उस गंतव्य स्थान पर पहुंच गया, उस सब को जीत लिया जिसकी मेरा हृदय अभिलाषा करता था और अपनी इच्छा के प्रयोजन को पा लिया। सचमुच जब मैंने तेरे चरण चिन्ह को पा लिया तो वह सब कुछ पा लिया जो भी वहाँ प्राप्त करने के लिए था। संपादकगण मेहरबान बी जस्सावाला, वॉर्ड पार्क्स, एरिक नाडल, हेदर नाडल, और ट्रांसलेटर्स हैं गोकर्ण श्रीवास्तव और शालिग्राम शर्मा। जय बाबा।
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. So here we complete the introduction. Since we are doing Hindi and English, समय ज़्यादा लेगा, almost double समय लगेगा ये किताब को हमें complete करने के लिए. But हम आशा रखते हैं कि this is not a book which can be, कभी session 1 सुना, फिर 2-3 सेशन वी लॉस्ट ट्रैक ऑफ इट, फिर सेशन 4 पे गया, 5 पे गया, वी विल नॉट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड. सो माई सजेशन टू whosoever is seriously interested in understanding the whatever that percentage of understanding that may seep into our intellect, try to be consistent in seeing one session after the other regularly, so that we are benefited by Baba's words. And as I have said earlier, it's like each word that comes out from the source of truth contain a certain spiritual energy. Elsewhere, somewhere, it's something like a bomb, something like an atom bomb, spiritual atom bomb. And hopefully, when we work with those words, it is said that we benefit spiritually, whether we understand it or not. So stay on, stay true, and till we meet tomorrow, same time, same place, 4:30. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to beloved Baba for giving us this opportunity to read Baba's own words and trying to understand as best as we can. Once again, thank you, Baba. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.